Thank you so very much. Now that we have spoken about globalization, we are delighted to announce our next session on enabling tech companies in global expansion. Going global not only opens up new growth opportunities, but also enables access to diverse talent, resources, and markets. We are privileged to have with us Mr. Jaideep Singh Kalra, Head, Business Banking, North and East India, HSBC Bank. Join us as our esteemed speaker for this session. A huge round of applause for Mr. Kalra, please. The stage is all yours, sir.
Thank you. You know, when we say for tech, the one thing I'm always worried is that tech should work. Great. Okay. That's great. At least the first part of the tech is working. So thank you for that, all the tech companies here who may have contributed in some measure. So just to give a quick introduction, I work with HSBC, as you know, and it's a real privilege and an honor for us to be present amongst all of you and partnering with NASSCOM on this SME Confluence, because I think it's not just for us as an organization or for NASSCOM. I think it's indeed a great privilege for each one of us to be in a country which is seeing so much of attention. We are really the sweet spot of the world. And all this is happening really because I think we've been riding a wave. We've been driving initiatives and changes. Now, all of us sitting here obviously would have heard of the 4Ds and 5Ds, right? But I think I would like to bring the attention that how all this is really getting the attention of the world. It's the data and digital, convergence that we see in India, which is probably the best that we could see anywhere else in the globe. Obviously, a vibrant democracy. Along with that, what's also very important, what we see is, again, from the eyes of not only HSBC as a global organization, but also the investors or the community we interact with, is the huge demography. The fact that we have so many women in attendance today, and that number is only going to grow, the diversity. And finally, the demand. I think demand is probably one of the most important factors. Not only is it domestic demand, it's also the global demand. Now, it's really incumbent upon all of us, how do we really capture this sweet spot? Because it may not remain with us forever, right? And in that state, how do we also convert that attention, global attention, into global demand for us? Now, in that state, obviously, I would love to take you through a presentation. But more than a presentation, I would like to relate to the HSBC story here. Because I think HSBC has also pivoted along the years. And this is more about how HSBC has evolved. We are present in over 60 countries. So what is it that maybe makes us tick? And obviously coming down to how can we really enable and support SMEs in their international journey. So let me just quickly start off with the first quick question so that I know everyone is paying attention. How old do you think HSBC is in India? Okay, we're about 165 years old. So this is going to be hopefully not a very long story, but an interesting one, right? Let's move. Okay, this is about HSBC globally. Now, why I wanted to start with this slide is because it's important for every SME sitting here to see where globalization can take you, okay? We're there in a world which is obviously today going through a lot of, tech. Okay. We are seeing a world which is obviously seeing a lot of dynamism plus a lot of challenges. HSBC reported about $30 billion of profit globally, and we are there in 62 countries, right? And obviously we have to make things work across these geographies. But the most interesting part about HSBC is that How are we really positioning? How are we managing this over 165 years? This is more about HSBC in India. HSBC, I love this slide and I like to show it to in any SME event because it's probably a nice playbook. Because when you are positioning a business for a global expansion, even if you miss even one of these critical parameters, I think there could be a challenge. The previous panel really talked about a very interesting thing about time. Time carries a different dimension in various countries, right? And again, values. I think it's the values that we have as an organization which probably help us in having the same customer experience in 60 countries. It's about strategic priorities. What is our purpose? Purpose is to enable the dreams of our clients. That purpose helps us in all geographies. That purpose is not country specific. Again, talking about employees, one very critical parameter in ESG and all of the metrics is about how well our employees think about us. So a very important concept that we evolved over the years is employee well-being. So again, it's a very interesting playbook because I think as HSBC, we would have probably evolved over the years, got a lot of consultants, got a lot of insights, and then developed this kind of playbook. So it's an interesting one, I think, for SMEs to start thinking about and developing for your own. Okay, now this is more about how can we really help a tech SME or an SME from India going overseas, and is there really something that we can do which can really enable your first steps? I think the first and the most underrated part about banking is transaction services. You need to have your bank account opened before you step into a country. That's the first objective, because otherwise the SME will not be able to really offer anything of value to your customers. So transaction services, or if you are operating from India, how well do you manage your FX payments and processing? So I'm going to talk about this. Again, see, it's about us getting the solution together. This is never complete without understanding the case of a customer and how that relates to him. But I just wanted to bring this all together, that do not underrate this, because this is probably the most important. You have, let's say you're a SaaS company, a customer has a choice of 5. Who do they choose? Ultimately, it may just come down to convenience, right? Trade services. Now, India, we all know, is obviously regulated when it comes to foreign currency, cross-border. So we have to ensure that from on day one, any moving in and out of the country is highly compliant. And a lot of times you'll find that there's very high attrition in the financial sector. Therefore, the need to be more compliant and having those initial compliances in place. Obviously, personal banking can never be ignored, but I'm going to talk about very quickly how these really make a huge difference in your global journey. Okay, a lot of banking today, or for that matter, any business, is still paper. Not because the solutions don't exist, but a lot of SMEs are probably not really taking it very proactively to digitize. Digitalization is not about just scanning paper and uploading it. I think it's about ensuring that you use the data which is publicly available and mating that with your system. So again, very important part of being global is be fully digital, because you cannot run a business if you have to do any sign or anything if you are in the US or UK. So again, that infrastructure has to be completely digital. So these are just few examples where digital really means not scanning paper, right? Now again, FX management. One of the biggest challenges today is that you're spending so much of time talking to banks, okay, FX, risk, etc. It's important that your service providers are able to give you bid and offer rates for complete transparency. That's the important thing. Why do you need to ever have any conversation when you should be ideally be able to see bid and offer rates? So again, these are some examples how you prepare yourself for your global kind of journey. You cannot be. And SaaS companies, again, I'm talking about tech SaaS companies, because you may have smaller size transactions. If the cost of doing those becomes very high, then the whole business model really can, be very inefficient. Okay, these are just examples of how we've tried to evolve around international customers to give them transparency and how we can help conduct those payments, right? Now, this probably is the most important slide of the entire, from a commercial standpoint. RBI and the government of India has created a huge digital stack, right? We keep on hearing about it. But the most important thing they did was that for all exports and imports, they've created this entire, IDPMS and EDPMS database, which captures all your, basically business outward and inward. Now, how are you using this? It's obviously incumbent on partners like banks to ensure that you use this data and without, again, any need of paper, you regularize and get your BRCs. So that's again about preparing for that global, expansion. Otherwise, a lot of people end up sort of doing exports and then not getting BRCs, and then you have teams changing, all of that. So get that infrastructure in place. I think that's the point I'm really trying to make. And use the public data infrastructure through banks to, get yourself set up on a complete digital platform. Okay. Now again, everyone travels. The advantage of obviously corporate card is known to everyone, but how can a corporate card also help you manage your working capital? It gives you 30, 45 days of additional working capital. It gives advantages. See, when your employees travel, you need to give them that experience, that the reimbursements and the overall process is seamless. They'll have more productivity as they move into a different world. So again, it's a small thing, but the difference it makes to your employees in their ability to kind of travel and, locally and internationally is very different. Okay, this is again something like a self-service, but again, it may look like, see, all this obviously looks like a typical HSBC demo, but I think it's important to understand that when we think about companies, it's about my solutions. How can my solution or our solutions really help your employees? Again, that's the thought process we've learned from the tech companies, right? Now, what we've done is we can't obviously do everything on our own. I think there are a lot of strong tech which is being developed. So how can a bank connect with that tech? And this is about not only partnership for commercial reasons, it's to help save time. If any company sitting here, and if I take a show of hands, I will probably, my guess is that 50% or more, you have all the ERPs and the accounting softwares, but they are not connected to your bank. So what is happening is every day, 1 hour is being spent extra by your team just doing reconciliation, which is not required. And we see a lot of tech companies still do that. So again, that's something which probably you save an hour and get them to do something more value added. And again, all these are commercially very viable, but I think more it's important from a time and cost perspective. Okay, this is again employee, because see, again, as a banker, we've taken a strategic decision to be a full service bank in the country, because we believe that particularly for an international company, if you have employees relocated, the first thing they need is a bank account there. So we have a concept of premier in one country, premier in all countries. So at least for all the startup founders, India allows you to open accounts in different countries. Let's say you're a frequent traveler to the UK, US, or whichever. You can get a premier relationship in India. You can open a pretty much like a zero fee kind of account in these countries, so that when you are traveling, you have your LRS or company, kind of commitments being met through those accounts. Again, this is a concept that is very important operationally for, most of the traveling promoters, okay? Now, this probably is the showstopper for me, because I think, why do we exist? A lot of the MNC business in India happens through a counter. So what we have realized is the most important, something which can give a sleepless night to a director sitting anywhere in the globe, is, am I being compliant with the laws of the country, okay? So we've developed this whole regulatory reporting desk, because the first stage is you will start international operations. Your team needs to be fully conversant with all the trade regulations, but that will never happen. It's the bank's role to guide and, have that advisory or the, practitioner's view about how does, international operation happen. The next is when you remit money overseas, like an ODI or whatever, that again needs a lot of regulatory oversight. So this is probably the most important role a bank will play in your international expansion. Okay, after that, now that we are all set, we are a decent sized company, we need to set up our offices in different countries. That's where the role of HSBC becomes very unique, because we have a concept of a global relationship manager. So your RM sitting in India will help you open those accounts in global, destinations. These are some of the destinations where we see a lot of Indian, tech companies go, but there are others which we cover. So that becomes a very important playbook for a company which has reached a certain size, even to collect payments and also to grow your international operations. And that's where, again, the whole HSBC proposition probably comes together for helping you grow global. Okay, these are just some of the awards, and I think I will like to end. I have about a minute left, but I would like to leave some time maybe for questions. But this is probably the one reason why even after developing a great tech or maybe a great proposition by SMEs, we may still be left behind. Because I think the importance of sustainability has really not yet kind of seeped down to the SME sector as much as required by, European and US kind of companies. So therefore, we've built a sustainability tracker. You can just go onto the website, search HSBC Sustainability Tracker. You can actually see where you are. You can self-assess where you stand, look at what action plans you can make for your company, and then track your progress. Because I think sustainability may become a very important enabler as well as a barrier for SMEs in India. So I will stop here. I don't know if we've got 17 seconds. If anyone can allow me to take a question or two, I'll be happy. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
What discounted values are you giving us SMEs?
Okay.
Because banking is very expensive.
So the advantage in India is that pretty much it is zero kind of fee, okay? But you're right, because what benefit do you get when you partner with me, right? What we've done is I'll take you to this slide, which is very interesting. So Nuclear, for example, we have a tie-up with Nuclear. So all your software subscriptions, which you do, even if you're paying to AWS, you're paying Google Workspace, which is the most simplest form, right? The moment we have a tie with Nuclear, they give you 8-10% discount on those payments. It can be 10 lakhs a year, it can be 10 crores a year, depending on the nature of the business. So we are looking into this cost angle because, see, firstly, yes, banking in India is not very costly because clearly banks are not based on a fee-based model. But how can my strength be coupled up? So, example, Zoho, Great HR, we got commercial offers with them. The second thing is about being transparent, right? I mean, if the bank says, okay, everything is free, they're obviously making money somewhere. So it's about being transparent on FX, because you would not, and also help you in ensuring the regulations are being met, because the cost of being non-compliant is very high. So if that kind of, yeah, but it's still work in progress. I think we're looking for more partners which are working with SMEs so that we can, make it more attractive, right? Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Sure.
Right here, to your left.
Sorry. Yes, sir, please.
Okay, so you explained about how you globalized, but with respect to banks especially, the regulations were different from country to country, tax systems were different, all the operations,
Yes.
all kinds of things are different. So it basically acts like a separate entity in each country, if I understand well. So, but as an entity, like as an organization, HSBC, so how do you reconsolidate everything? And then, so are you taking any tech help there? Are there any new opportunities for IT companies there? What kind of, how do you reconsolidate all your earnings?
Okay, so I'm not sure if I completely understand your question. So first part, I think you see, how does HSBC do it, right? See, HSBC, obviously, because we took a strategic decision to be present in few countries, right? So it was very clear, are we going to be local in every country, okay, and meet the local guidelines, or we are there to certain global standards? This one decision probably differentiated and brought us into a stage where we've been consistently growing. I think you have to stick to global standards. So we said we will be the highest standard, we'll pick up that and we stick to those standards. See, it's always good to be on the highest standard than to be on a local standard in every country. So that's part one. The other thing which also has happened over the years, for example, in India, do you remember we ever had a credit bureau in India? About 10 years back. Today we have one of the best credit bureaus, right? So regulations are anyway moving towards being very compliant, and the countries are connected, okay, whether it's tax or otherwise. So I think it's very important for an SME to take a decision that do you want to be playing at the highest standard? Because let's say if you are in the US, the legal and the regulatory aspects of doing business there, the consumer protection laws are so different, maybe in another country. And if there is any kind of, intersection between the two, you could be having a huge compliance. So I think it's about firstly deciding what standard you want to play. And I would suggest that, yes, if your focus is developed world, it's always good to be at the highest standard. And obviously, see, these things develop over a time, right? The second thing is how, we are doing from a, we obviously work with a lot of, consultants, but also how we are helping SMEs. There's a very interesting website called HSBC Business Go. Again, I can't cover all this, it would look like a complete professional. But if you're ever looking at these countries where we are present, go to HSBC Business Go. We've actually listed down certain consultants or certain advisors who are also HSBC clients to help you get into understanding of those countries. And there are some guides as well of these countries. So I think it's important to trade first with those countries and then maybe set yourself up, because the cost of winding down also is big. The RBI regulations need that you have to, every dollar you send as a capital, you have to record it, the regulatory cost. So India itself is very high in regulations, right? Okay.
I have one question. And
Sure.
It's more to related to, so I come from Akamai Technologies. We are also actually doing this globalization, localization, especially on the finance, on the infrastructure as a cloud side. What I have come across, most of my SMB partners, and they're in the range of 1,000 plus across countries, they are struggling when they are getting payments from cryptocurrency from them.
Okay.
And then they are looking for some partners who can help you, or at least people like you, who can help them standardize all this when they are opening their offices, let's say in the areas like even in Singapore or in Manila or in certain areas where there is definite big business potential, especially around the crypto mining part. But the challenge is they're getting all these payments. So you guys do help them there?
See, I think, crypto or digital currencies are not regulated, okay? And as banks, let's be very clear, we are regulated entities. Okay, banks in Singapore, US, India, anywhere. We are
There are certain banks in Singapore, they are taking
So again, if banks are regulated, then if there is something unregulated, we will have to clearly, be very cautious. Okay. So as a business as well, you have to really see that what's the business that, you are targeting? Is it a regulated country, regulated business? What is the size of that business and the cost of compliance? See, because a lot of these digital currencies or otherwise, we all understand, because they're not regulated, so they're prone to certain, financial crime or other risks. So again, so it's important for an SME to understand what can you manage within your scope, because the cost of compliance for some of those businesses may become very big if, as a bank, I'm regulated and I'm not dealing with it. So just some food for thought. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm regulated, so, RBI says we have to follow certain guidelines. We will always be compliant with those, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Sure, that's fine. I think, thank you so much for a very patient listening. And, I know it was HSBC. We got a stall here, so if there's any further questions, please feel free. Thank you.
Can I have one question? Can you answer this one last question?
Sure.
Pardon me for this blunt opinion. I'm just using HSBC as a symbol for the banking, supporting the SMEs. We run a rural tech firm in Belampalli, my home village. We have around 100 people, and we left I was chief economist for TVS Group. We left and here's my brother. He was leading global operations for Signity. We left our jobs and we went back to our village in 2017. We have been running this firm for the last 8-9 years, and of late we have been in media for what a good reason.
Sir, I'm just mindful of the time.
I know.
If it's an observation, we can take it later.
No,
yeah?
I'm just coming to the point that
Yeah.
I want to make this. I want to make this pain point in a public forum. No, we have been receiving accolades on stage. We have been receiving awards on stage and then media. But when it actually comes to banking services, to open a corporate account for my firm or to transfer salaries for my employees, I have to go around 14 banks. And to get listed my company on the panel list, right? I have to run around for 3 months. Everybody appreciates our work. But on ground, probably beyond the tier 1 cities of the metros, beyond the top 6 or 7 metros, or probably up to tier 3 towns, the percolation of these services and the empathy, I think, is quite weak. It is, in some sense, it's quite appalling, if I have to use the word.
No, so I think it's a real problem. And I think the only thing is with COVID, the whole digitalization has really started. So when was the last time anyone really visited a bank branch? Unless the bank, you wanted to have a coffee with a banker, right? So I think that's hopefully going to help address the issue that you're facing, that we become more digital and we obviously therefore can get the best solutions to, the hinterland of the country. Thank you. Thank you for the observation. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah, okay. I'll take this out. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kalra, for keeping this very interactive and engaging and covering all bases. Also, thanks to the audience for raising very pertinent questions. I take the opportunity to invite on stage Mr. Shankar Agrawal, founder and CEO, Data Absolute Technologies, to felicitate Mr. Kalra. Thank you, sir. If you could please come center stage. Thank you for doing the honors, sir.